The mid-size crossover segment isn't as hot as what it used to be. Everybody's gone smaller. You've got either compact or subcompact. However, there are still a few players in that segment to keep it nice and warm and spicy, so to speak. You've got Mazda CX-8, then you've got the Ford Explorer. And then from Korea, you've got this, the 2022 Kia Sorento SX. The question is it spicy enough to heat up the competition or the segment with its features and price? Let's find out. Do you need help purchasing your car insurance? Head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph/car-insurance. Here, you can compare prices and customize your insurance coverage from many of the Philippines' top providers. When you've selected the insurance that's best for you, simply fill out the application and complete the transaction with ease through Visa, MasterCard, GCash, GrabPay, or PayPal, and receive your policy within the next business day. Get the best deal on insurance with AutoDeal. Let's go through some of the numbers and some of the bad news first. Number one, its price. The Sorento comes in at 2,598,000 Philippine pesos. Now, that 98,000 Philippine pesos is if you get the white color. If you don't get the white color, subtract 10,000 pesos from it. That's number one. Number two is that while other markets have a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, and even a gasoline version, we have a carried over 2.2-liter diesel that's mated to a DCT. That DCT is actually pretty new. This thing produces 197 horses and a whopping 441 Newton-meters of torque. So that actually is the good part of it. And it is front-wheel drive, while as in the other markets, you will find an all-wheel drive system. So we get just that. The good news is the fact that, well, we get a diesel engine because we love our diesels. And unfortunately, the infrastructure just isn't ready for an electric vehicle just yet. So this right here is probably the best that we can get right now. Consider though also that Kia has already said that they're stopping production on this particular engine as well. So they're actually going to move into the EV line. How long before that happens? We don't know. It's actually quite some time, most likely, before it hits the country. So at the meantime, this is what I'm saying is actually the best of the worlds. And if you think about it, amongst the competition in this segment, it's the only one with the diesel engine. Aha! But it's not all bad news because honestly, take a look at the automobile and it is a stunner. It actually truly is. The front clip, gorgeous with this new grille, and it's huge and blacked out. And then of course, you've got the new logo. The one thing that I noticed though is that for the Philippine market, it hasn't put in a portion here where you can actually put the plate number. So this thing kind of looks out of whack. But if you take it off, and I'm really not supposed to be doing this, if you take out all this junk, it actually looks great. I'm sad that eventually that they will have to put a plate there for your plate number, or rather a plastic plate for your plate number. To continue on, it's an all LED affair. You've got your DRL lights down here, and then your fog lamps are also LED, which are found here, sort of like closer in, tighter in. It does look quite stunning, and it's also still got the tiger nose signature that Kia has, but it looks great. It's got air intakes found down here, and then all the way down here is still part of your radiator so that the air can come in. Down the side, you've got 19s on. Now the tires actually, for me, could be a little bigger. These are 19s and they're already massive, but because of the sheer size of the automobile, I felt as if that these actually might be better like with 20s on. Like if you see, let's say for example, the CX-9. That's got really big rims and maybe thinner tires, but then again, it might also compromise the ride, which don't worry, we'll get to a little bit later. So you've got 19s on there and disc brakes all around. You've got some chrome accents found around the windows, all the way from the A pillar, all the way back to the D pillar, and also underneath. Some faux chrome here, and then repeaters on your side mirror, some nice roof rails as well, and some decent ground clearance found down below. I'm a size 8, so just imagine how bigger that is. Now at the rear, it's actually Also quite very good looking from back here. First, you can't miss the lights, these massive lights, which obviously makes it look like it's more of an American market. It looks like the Palisade, which is basically a cousin of the Kia, right? Or maybe even a Suburban, right? It's got huge lights that are vertical. I quite like them. They actually look great at night. These, not just the rear, but the fronts as well, because they have such a great throw, as we'll probably show you if we edit to it. And then you've got a third brake light up here. I would have preferred a shark's fin antenna, but I guess that'll do. Some nice lines. Now, the bottom half of the car is trying to look as sophisticated as the front of the automobile, and I think it's getting there, albeit it's got a lot of fakeness to it. Like, for example, these exhausts, they're not really exhausts. The exhaust is actually found underneath. And then these things, well, the air doesn't go anywhere from there, as well as the sides. These are actually just plastic covers. Not so great. But enough about the body, let's move on to the space of the automobile. So if you open her up, and which is kind of tricky actually, you're gonna try to open her up from here. No, it's not up here. From here, it's not here. You can use the key fob, but to be able to open her up, the button is actually found somewhere down here. So that can get quite confusing. Imagine the guards at the mall trying to open your trunk. Now, with the third row in play, it's obviously not going to be much space. You're looking at roughly about 180 liters, which is good for a hand carry suitcase. The ones that you carry onto the plane, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So that will fit nicely about here. Now, when you do fold the third row, you will expand the space to a little over 600 liters, which is great. And if you're wondering just exactly how big that is, you can easily fit a balikbayan box in here, and sliding it in and out isn't an issue because it's all flat. And then you've got extra luggage space, or cargo space rather, not luggage space, with a little pocket found down here, which is right beside your tools. The third row has got, well, it's got its good and bad points. Hey Joe, you wanna help me out and come out to the other side and pull this chair back as if you were actually gonna sit up front? So the good parts is the fact that it's actually quite comfortable back here. When you put this headrest up, it's great. You can definitely seat two adults, mid-sized adults back here with the amount of elbow room that you have. And the amenities are actually pretty cool too, because you've got air vents on either side. You've got storage space on either side, cup holders on either side. By the way, I'm really loving these air vents. The fact that they're not up on top and you can get much closer to them if you need to cool off. Plus, you've got air controls too. Just air controls, not temperature controls, but air controls at the very least. And then, you may not have charging points back here, but you do have a 12-volt socket at the very least. So if you want to charge your gadgets from the third row, you can get one of those lighter things that you can plug in one or even two USB cords to charge your devices. So really, it's quite comfortable back here. Now, again, it's not all roses because, well, the seats are actually quite close to the ground, as you can tell, right? My butt is right really close to where my feet are. And although the leg room is actually pretty good, even though the Joey is sitting in front of me right now, which he says, we've tried this before, that even Jack would be comfortable up there. The fact is that my knees are actually quite high. They're much closer to my chest. So it seems like the way this was designed, they did think of the third row passengers, that's for sure. It's just, I feel as if that they designed it with people that have shorter legs than me. Is that even possible? Are there people like that on this planet? Now, when you get to the second row, eventually, when you fold it properly, okay, so this is the amount of space that I was talking about earlier that Joey had while I was still quite comfortable in the third row. And as you can tell, it's very, very huge. This is Joey and my driving position, so it's not very tall like Jack, but still, the amount of space that you have is quite impressive. Now, even if you have a third passenger, third passenger in the second row, the tunnel is actually quite low. So it is possible. But to maximize the amount of space that you have, it would either be a tight person, or rather a small person as the third passenger with two other passengers in the rear, or if you only have three passengers up front and none at the back, you can quite literally push this all the way back, and it's almost like limo quality space, really. That's actually very, very impressive. So is too the amount of toys that you have back here, which is a center armrest with 2 cup holders. And then you've got air vents found here in the center, 2 of them that sway and go up and down, which is nice. It blows really cold air. A 12-volt plug found underneath, as well as a USB charging port. Now on the doors, you've got bottle holders and cup holders, which is important because the bottle holder, this is a standard 22-ounce bottle. Well, it's not standard, it's actually quite bigger. Mine is bigger than Jack's. So when you've got a bottle, oh yeah, you did give this to me. When you have a bottle and you want to fit it in the door, I don't know if you can see it if it's dark, but the pockets are actually quite strange on the door. So much so that a bottle of this size doesn't actually fit inside. See that? It's kind of weird. So a smaller bottle, definitely yes. Something like Jack's, something smaller will definitely fit inside. But if you have bigger bottles, obviously it would be better off in the cup holder, bottle holder on the door, or even in the center armrest. It'll actually fit there too. That doesn't fit. It really doesn't fit. And now to the business end of the Sorento. And first and foremost, getting into a very comfortable driving position is actually a breeze. And when I say a breeze, it's also because it comes with cool seats. That's very, very nice. There's a lot of air that comes in. Not just heated, no, but it's got cooled seats as well for the front and passenger as well. So getting into the front, getting into your proper driving position is easy because you've got a telescopic steering wheel, and then you've got power to go up and down and forward and back. Then you can lean, obviously. But then there's added bonuses like there's a lumbar support, which you can't see, but it is powered. You can push that on and push it back with the buttons on the left-hand side, obviously the right-hand side for the driver, or rather for the passenger. And then there's something that I'm gonna have to open my door so that you can see this. There is also thigh support. Jack, come on in. So for much taller passengers, you press a button and see the thigh support sort of rolls out. Now the last time I saw this was on a Mini Cooper, but that one you actually had to physically pull out. Here, you can sort of just press a button and it'll electronically do that for you. That's pretty awesome, right? Oh, mind you, to let you guys know that the engine is running because it's quite hot, but you can barely hear it really, and much less so if I close my door. The only reason why you should be able to hear it now is because Jack's door is actually open. Let's get on with the dashboard. First and foremost, you have a 12.3-inch screen that is colored, and that's got all the information that you need for the automobile, for your driver functions, your speedometer, your tachometer, warnings, and what you have. On your steering wheel, you've got your cruise control, your lane keep assist as well. There are no paddles on this automobile. On the left-hand side, you've got buttons that control your audio, which, by the way, is an 8-inch screen, and it's actually pretty crisp. Even in this bright light, we can see it very, very well. Good news is that it's got Android and Apple capabilities. The bad news is it's not exactly wireless, so to speak. It's got phone mirroring and all of that, but the thing is, for you to activate that, what you have to do is actually first plug in your phone through the ports found down here, and once you do set it up, then it becomes wireless because it connects via the Wi-Fi of the automobile. But at the very start, you gotta plug it in. So it's wireless, kinda. I guess it's a good middle ground because you just start it off and then you're good. Underneath that are your air controls. The weird thing is about this that Joey noticed is that there is an auto button for, you know how the car cools itself off with the amount of air that is pushed back into the cabin. But in this case, you can opt for a full-on blast auto, a medium auto, and a low auto, which then it will eventually slow down or speed up depending on what it is that you need. But I've just never seen an auto with levels before. So that's your air controls, which I'm gonna bring down so that it doesn't interfere with the mic. And then the cool thing, another cool thing, is that while you have air vents that are pointed up into the cabin, there are actually smaller ones found just underneath them on each and every single one. There's one here, one here. There's also one on this side. And what I found as a male driver is that if you tilt this ever so slightly to the left, then you can actually cool your well, your nether region while you're driving. Now, that may sound a little bit on the disgusting side. Yes, I agree with you. But for any guy that has been wearing jeans underneath the sun in Manila traffic for like at the very least an hour, that is quite literally heaven sent. It doesn't smell like heaven, but trust me, it's heaven sent. To continue on, you've got bottle holders on either door, which aren't very big, unfortunately. So that large bottle that we were talking about earlier, again, even has less space on this side. It doesn't even get in. You know what? I could force it in, but I would break it. But at the very least, there are bottle holders here in the center, which is actually pretty cool. The fact that they put it on the side rather than it being behind the gear shifter, so that at least as a driver, when I put it into drive or into park, I'm not hassled by it. Then you've got obviously your drive modes, and then a 360-degree camera that I forgot to mention that you can turn on and see. Check it out. You got a 360-degree view. I can turn it on and off. Now, this system is actually one of the clearest cameras I've ever seen. Just look at the quality of it. In fact, it's so clear. Check out exactly what it is that we can do with this camera. The camera, in fact, is so clear that even in a structure like this, where it's dark and there's a second basement, it's so clear that I can probably make it down to the second basement backwards. Check this out. How do you like that, Matthew?
Probably not the most practical.
No, it's probably not the most practical test, but the point is that I backed up into the second basement parking structure using just that. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Now, to finish off the front cabin, you've got softer touch materials here. You've got fall wood here, which has got, it's not a very smooth grain, and it's not grainy enough that it feels good to the touch. It's just, well, it's there. And then soft plastics here, or rather soft touches, touch points here. The doors, or rather the cubby holes, close actually very well. And it feels like the car is actually very well built. I like that. So the sad part is that there are piano black plastics where you don't want piano black plastics to be, which is up here on the infotainment and as well here on the air. I mean, look at the amount of, you just touch it and your thumbprint gets stuck there. I want to also show you 5 really cool things that I found with this Sorento, and they're more than just quirks. I actually find these things to be very, well, endearing of the automobile. Let's start at the back. Now, this may seem like it's a gimmick, but okay, it could be, but I actually quite enjoy it because not since the Fords have you had buttons at the rear to be able to fold the second row. Granted, the Terra has one, but the buttons are found up front. Here in the Sorento, click button left and right, and that'll tumble the second row quite easily, really. Bam! And check this out. This is a fully extended tripod. Look at the amount of space that you have. Number 2 is exactly how easy it is to get into the third row, because on either side, there is a button that you will find, if you can see, just up on top. And all you gotta do is just give it a push. Oh, sorry, not just up here, but you also have a button found down below. And all you gotta do is just give it a push. Bam. That's how easy it is to get into the third row. I actually quite like that. None of this tumbling and trying to figure out exactly how it is that you're gonna get back there. It's really quite easy. Makes ingress and egress of the third row very, very easy. That's number 2. Number 3 is these cool features that you have not for the front row, but it's on the front row for the second rows. Now, I did mention that there were charging points already down here, right? But there are also charging points found on the seats of the people in front of you. There's one here and there's one here. You have buttons that you can move this chair forward and back, and even tilt it forward and back. So if you're the passenger here, and if you're feeling kind of like a Dawn, and you can move that all the way forward and tilt it forward too, so that you can have all the leg room that you want. or if you just want to piss whoever it is up front, because that's like really easy. So that's some pretty cool features. There are more. The fourth, well, I actually gave that away a little bit earlier. It's the fact that there are cool seats and vents that you can position. That has got to be one very cool factor that you have in this car. The last cool thing that I found in this car is, well, it's so awesome. I've never seen it done in any other car before, and I think it's pretty cool because you've got blind spot monitors for this particular car. Not just monitors, but rather you can see your blind spot. Now, in other automobiles, you can see it from your infotainment system, which means that if you're driving, you have to take your eyes off the road and look down here. In this particular sense, no. Check this out. I don't know if you're gonna hop in, but when you turn, or rather when you indicate to the right, your blind spot camera goes on, and it's here inside the dash. And if you go to the left, it's the same thing. It's so cool. It's like a pirate doing an eye checkup. Arr, eye, arr, eye. It's galing. Sorry for saying this in Filipino, but it's really galing. It's a trip. Now, driving the Sorento around the city, you will note that it is a large vehicle. It truly is. I mean, it's a 7-seater, it's got some length, and it's got some girth. However, I will say that because of the 2.2-liter engine and the amount of torque that it delivers, it doesn't feel like it's a big car because it helps dispense with that weight. Now, the size is obviously something else, but with the amount of cameras that you have inside this car, it also makes it very easy to drive even in tight situations. At the same time, so does the blind spot monitors that turn on inside the cluster, like I showed you earlier. And then the fact that you've got quarter windows that make the A-pillars much smaller. So truthfully, driving it is actually quite pleasant. Now, the thing about it is that what I didn't mention, rather, I'm sorry to get at myself, what I didn't mention earlier is what the fuel figures are. Well, see, that it's a little bit on the downside. Truthfully, we expected a bit more. Now, it is a 2.2-liter diesel, and it's got a lot of torque, some decent horsepower. So inside the city, you're doing roughly about 8.5 kilometers per liter. But that's obviously heavy traffic now that it's starting to build up. Now, when you get out on the highway, much better. You're doing at about 23, 24 kilometers per liter, which is obviously much better. But truthfully, it's just about par for a diesel engine. If you hypermile it, you're looking at roughly about, what, 26 kilometers per liter. But then, truthfully, why would you? I mean, that's not enjoying the drive after all. Truthfully, from 50 kilometers per hour to 100 kilometers per hour, which we obviously can't do on EDSA, but we can attempt to, I think we'll try to, you can do it in just 4 seconds. The amount of torque inside this car is just redonkulous. And if you're not careful with it too, yes, I know that there's a car there. If you're not careful with it too, it could be an issue. In the instance that when you are taking a turn and you decide to give it a little bit more gas than you should, there is wheel spin. And if you're put it in sport, you could have wheel spin all the way up to 3rd gear. The fuel efficiency may not be there, it may not be at the top of as like with most automobiles, but even though it's a diesel engine, but the fact that the amount of torque that you get, wow, it's just really fun to drive. And it's 7 seats. So with a full capacity of people inside, it's not like these smaller engines that are just 1.5 that expect you to carry 7 people at the same time. This car, 7 people, yeah, bring it, bring it. It is a place where you can be very, very comfortable. And your passengers also, like I mentioned earlier, there are so many places where you can charge your devices. So everyone has some form of power to them. And not just USB ports, but even a wireless charging pad, which I forgot to mention earlier too. And a pad that's big enough to even fit large phones like myself's. Myself's? No, I mean large phones like mine. What is myself's? Is that even a term, Jack? I think one of the better tests when it comes to comfort is driving it on EDSA because, well, truthfully, it's not the flattest surface out there. Sad that we're just stuck in, your average, very much building traffic nowadays. But at a cruising speed of about 20 kilometers per hour, much like any automobile, there really isn't much going to be complained about. I mean, it is a crossover after all, so it's got the height, close to the height of that of an SUV, and then it's got the comfort of a sedan. But on EDSA, I do try to find the rough patches, and there are quite a few to get through. And truth be told, that the suspension feels like it's a little bit more on the stiffer side. So the rebound of such, because of the suspension, is a little bit quicker. It's not as forgiving. But apart from that, it's actually smooth sailing. And on the highway, yes, it definitely is a car that will not solicit any complaints from the driver or the passengers at that. There are a few things, just a pair of things, that I wish that the car did have, considering its price range and the fact that it's, falls into somewhat of a premium category. Number one, I'm not a big fan of it, but a lot of people might be looking for a sunroof. That's one thing. Again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of it, so I don't mind it, but other people will be like, it should have one because of its price. Second, although it does have cruise control and lane keep assist, what it doesn't have, again, I'm not a fan of it, is adaptive cruise or low speed follow. Something that some people might be wondering, hey, what'd you do with the rest of my money? So it definitely has a lot of endearing qualities about it, and it's got a hell of a lot of torque. The question is, however, is it worth the price? Let's talk about that for a moment. See, as I mentioned earlier, it's about 2,600,000 Philippine pesos. Take or what, 2,000 bucks. So at that price, you can actually get yourself a bottom-end CX-9 or a top-of-the-line CX-8. The others in the competition with, let's say, for example, the Ford, you'd have to spend roughly about 2.9 million Philippine pesos, which is already a top-of-the-line CX-9. So it's not exactly the most affordable. It's actually priced pretty close high up to the CX-9s already. The thing, though, is all of those cars come with a gasoline engine. This is a diesel with a crap load of torque, 441. Yes, I do understand that EVs are coming in, but at this very moment, with the gas prices be damned or whatnot, that diesel will actually quench any spices that you may have in your mouth, because this is one very tall glass of milk.